Welcome back. Oh, I'll cut that bit out. Welcome back to the
Right.
first episode of my new podcast. And I'm delighted. I'm really excited to have again Victoria McMahon on. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. I'm actually very honoured and privileged to be asked to be your first podcaster. And this is actually my first ever podcast. And that's been, that's sorry, Chris.
when you first told me that, I was so shocked because like you're always on LinkedIn, you're always putting out content. I was shocked that nobody's ever. Have you ever been asked on a podcast before?
You know something? I have been asked. I have actually been asked to go on podcasts. I've been asked to team up with other people in the cleaning industry, and basically during the whole COVID pandemic, I was very military on what I was saying yes to and what I was saying no to. So I had my head down, and I was like, no, I have an end goal in sight, and I'm not taking on anything that's going to distract me from that. So I had been saying no consistently. So whenever you asked me, I think it was because you said I was going to be your first. So I was like, okay, yes. Yes, I'll go with that.
Good. And do you know what? That's something I want to talk about later. Mindset, keeping focus and stuff. But why don't you just start by telling everybody who you are, what your business is, and what you're all about?
Okay, so my business is called Spring Clean, and I've been running it for the last 17 and a half years. And we're a cleaning company based in County Down, Northern Ireland. And we've been basically going for a very long time, but we do believe that we are probably the most reputable cleaning business in Northern Ireland. And when I say probably, we could probably take out the word probably.
Yeah.
I would be that confident, Chris. We're very high end, we're very high end cleaning, and we offer a very niche service to our clients. And I don't really know what else to say.
No, look, you've got to believe it before anybody else believes it. And I really believe we're doing the same thing. I feel we're the best. And when it comes to sales, I think it was Gary Vee said something that really resonated with me. He's like, don't convince, have conviction. If you've got conviction in what you're selling and what your business is, then you're never going to have to convince anybody because they'll be convinced with your conviction. Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
it's something that you've really got to believe it first. So awesome. So let's talk a bit about mindset, or let's talk a bit about your business first of all. I remember the last time we spoke, you spoke about completing your business. So what do you mean by that for anybody who's listening with a cleaning business or a local services business?
Okay, so basically we have been going for a very long time, and the company has been basically, it's been like a roller coaster. It's been up and it's been down. And about 2 years ago, I decided that, something, I need to work on finishing off my business because the business solely relied on me. And to be honest, Chris, I'll happily do probably the work of about 4 people in the company. And I do everything from hiring staff to training them, the health and safety, purchasing the stock, pricing work, rotas, wages, HR, absolutely everything. And I absolutely love it. And, as an entrepreneur, I think everybody knows that you are too busy to be sick. So sick days are just they just don't happen in your company. And I thought, I am the business, and if I want to grow and I want to scale up the company, then I need to take myself out of the business. I need to make myself redundant, and I need to finish off the business. So I decided 2 years ago that I give myself a deadline. I think it was at the end of last year that the company would fully run without me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with COVID and stuff, that wasn't the case. And I just put the goal date back. But I have been spending the entire time being really focused on trying to outsource my tasks. So it was trying to decide what I did and putting my work into some sort of structure. So a lot of things I do off the cuff. I run the business in my head. So what I needed to do was transfer that information from my head into paper, and I needed to create processes and systems, and it was basically systemizing everything I did from my head, but putting it onto paper format, so that I was then able to delegate my jobs onto other people. And that's what I've been doing for at least a year, I would say. And that's all I was kind of focused on, was just trying to put that process into place and make sure that the business was finished. So I'm nearly there. I'm not quite there. And it seems to be the closer I get, there's just a little bit more that needs to be done. So, you know, it seems to be like a rollover. There's always stuff that's adding on to that.
Do you know what? I completely agree. And the more I think I remove myself, even just a little bit, it never seems to be.
Sorry, my mum's just coming in. One second.
Hello, Mum.
No spoiler.
Yes. Sorry, Chris.
It's okay. It's all right. Oh,
Sorry, Chris.
I think I've just blew 2 plugs trying to plug a light in there.
Lovely.
So yeah, no, look, I completely agree. Every time I think I've created a bit of time, there's always more needs done, and it's probably the most challenging part about running a business. I mean, nobody really thinks about it until they're told about it. You know, you're just working day and day and day and day and day, and you're just constantly, there's more tasks, the more staff you get, there's more tasks, the more clients you get, there's more tasks. And then I just think people just have they don't want to let go of control, and they don't. And whereas I'm the other way around, I'm happy to let go of control and just let people make mistakes, and then, you know, tweak the process as we go. But
Yes.
I find definitely one of the most challenging things that I'm finding doing. But again, I'm chipping away at it too. You know, just taking each little thing one process at a time. You know, we're starting with the removals guys. Everything from recruitment right through to the actual on-the-job training, from how to deal with customers, and then we're going to move on to the office, because that's just a little bit easier at the minute, and it's easier for me to manage because I can do it so quickly now. But it'll be the next stage. But I think getting the movers sorted first, and then we'll move on. But again, there's just that much happening. Sometimes you find it difficult to get a minute, and it's definitely not within my skill set, but it's something I know I have to do, and I'm sure it's something you knew you had to do as well.
Absolutely. I think as business owners, it's funny because you spend at the start of the business, you're reluctant to say yes to work, and then you constantly say yes to work, and then you're saying yes to work so much that then you forget how to say no to work. And then it takes you a long time to say no, because you have to at one point, I think, draw the line to say, right, okay, you know, if I'm so busy in my business, you know, I'm never going to be able to work all my business. And that's what I find, that when you're so involved in the day-to-day running of the company, you know, it's very, very hard to take a step back, because you have so much control, and you know, when you're on a job, things are going to go perfect, and you know the flow, and you know your team, and you know everything inside out. And it's taken that leap of faith. I think that leap of faith of stepping back and saying, right, okay, I want my team to take on more of a role, and I want them to grow with the company. And it's really, really hard whenever you know you can do something in maybe 3 times the speed of what somebody else can do it, and you have to let them take ownership of the task, and let them grow at their pace. And it does take time. I mean, I wish I had started doing it 10 years ago, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe that was my own personal journey, and maybe it took me to be in business 15 years before I could say, right, okay, this is what I need to do now.
Yeah. And which part, like, let's talk about like small businesses just for a second. Which part did you find the hardest to create processes around and create systems around? Was there like a particular area? Was it the training of the cleaners? Was it the HR? Was it the rotas, or which one was it?
In what way are you saying hardest to delegate that task over?
Yeah, hardest to sort of put down into a process and pass on.
You see, processes for me come really, really easy. I am very, very, I'm very, very methodical in how I operate. My biggest problem was that I would say I started skimming, right? And because I was doing so many tasks, I have three kids as well. So I'm a mompreneur. So because I'm juggling so many things at one time, I found, Chris, what was happening was I was skimming for a very, very long time. So although I started off really, really well in the business, maybe for the first maybe 3 to 5 years, I found after that I started then not putting so much effort into a task because we grew, and as we grew, you know, there was less time for me. And then what happened was I then was failing in my day-to-day systems. So my systems were not as airtight as what they should have been, because if you don't have a foundation in place to begin with, and even if you do have a foundation, and if you slip away from that and you start, you know, you don't follow through all your processes because you're time poor, then what happens is you'll come to a certain point where you're then having to backtrack. So you're then having to backdate everything that you've been skimming on, you know, for a long period of time. So that's basically what I had to do. Whenever I was 15 years in business, I had to sit and go, right, okay, you know, where are my weaknesses? You know, where am I failing on? You know, what systems have I in place that I'm not following through on? So I had to go in and repair those. So once I repaired those, I could then look at the things that I was doing without a system. So even though there was tasks I would have been carrying out, it wasn't wrote down, but I would have been able to follow that system to perfection because I knew the flaws. I knew what would happen if I didn't do a certain thing. So
Yeah.
I had to tidy up my written processes, which were the company's foundation. And then what I had to do is I had to go in and take the processes in my head and basically put that into a written format. So it was easy enough to do. The hardest part of that I found probably would have been getting the time and basically being able to sit down and say, right, okay, you know, I'm doing the wages, but I need to actually write down the whole process of how I do the wages. So I found that took longer than what I thought it would have. Whereas if I had been very, very disciplined from the very, very start, you know, I could have maybe had my whole company systemized at a very, very early age. But I don't know whether all business owners do that or whether, you know, it's the norm that you know, that's what happens. You just get too busy and you start working inside the business. I mean, I didn't bring on staff to help me, office staff to help me really until the last couple of years, which is something I really should have did at the start. And I think possibly my biggest problem is that I love paperwork. I love finance. I love admin. You know, I absolutely love it, Chris. So say whenever you do something that you really, really love, it's hard to give that over to somebody else. So that was a huge struggle for me because my background is finance and admin. That's what I worked in before I started Spring Clean, you know, 17 years ago. So I found it really, really difficult, but I've had to give myself a good rocket and say, you know, I can't do everything and I'm not doing everything 100%. So I have to hand it over. I have to give the reins over. If I want the company to be big, if I want the company to be successful, it'll only grow as far as I can take it, and I can't take it any further. So I need to bring people on board. I need a strong admin team the same way as I've got a strong cleaning team. And that's been a huge challenge. Letting go and trusting someone to work with me and trusting them that they can do their job and trusting them with the information has been the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah, do you know what? It's something that we're going through at the minute. Just as you say, office and admin staff, it's something that I'm actually surprisingly good at, but something I really don't like to do. Like, I can be very diligent when I've got the time and I've got the focus, but I know that there's somebody out there who's going to be far better at me than running the office. I just know it. So we're preparing at the moment to try and well, we actually need to move premises first of all before because I'm not going to get good staff in where we are now. So we're trying to move premises. It's next on the cards, and you need a strong back end team as well as you do front end team, because like there's only, you need to stick to what you're good at. and I know that I love sales and I love marketing, and I want to spend the majority of my time creating more content, but I just cannot get the time and the headspace to get it done.
Yes.
But yeah, I completely agree. And I just wanted to go back to what you said at the start, when you were saying about your company being, not probably the best, but you're thinking about the best. So that
Yes.
obviously means you've got a really high standard of how you want things done. So how did you get to that point where you were like, right, if we want to be the best, we have to raise our standards? And how did you communicate that to your team?
Well, basically, I remember when I first started the company, I always had an end vision of being a multinational business. Even though I started small, I always knew where I wanted the company to be. So what we try to do was we try to do things differently. The reason why I went into the cleaning industry was because I felt, Chris, there was an awful gap in the market for a cleaning company who provided high end cleaning, who supplied people who loved what they did, who they were treated really, really well, who were trained, who knew how to do their job and did it really, really effectively. So you're talking 17 years ago when cleaning was not trendy, way before Mrs. Hinch, way before Marie Kondo, before cleaning got trendy. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to create a company that people loved to work in. So in order to create a company that people love to work in, you had to, first of all, treat them really, really well, but also you had to make sure they were confident in their job, make sure that they were given, a full training program, make sure that they always had the right cleaning equipment. So whenever we first started, we introduced a full training program with the team. So when they started, they had an induction into the company. They had a little bit of health and safety training, and then they were trained on how to clean. So every single person that came on board the company with us had it was up to a full week training with ourselves before they were even placed out to a client. But obviously, whenever you first start the business, you do lots of things and you make lots of mistakes and you kind of learn your lessons. So a huge problem that we had in what we did was that we were probably too good and we were probably given too much training, because sometimes someone would have came on board to work with us and they would have came and worked with me alongside me for a full week. And then afterwards they would have said, do you know something, Vicky? I don't think it's really for me. Can I have my week's pay? And I was like, oh my goodness, I just spent a whole week of my life, training you to become a professional cleaner. And, I've worked alongside you and you're just basically looking a week's pay and you're leaving. So obviously we had to alter our training. We had to make changes to how we vetted our applications, for people coming on board, even our contracts that we had with our clients. We found at the start what happened was a lot of clients would have got me in and I would have devised a cleaning rota for them, which would have been a time planner specific for their home, which was absolutely fantastic. And then maybe they had one of our team in for a short period of time and they'd say, actually, do you know something, we're going to cancel now. So I would have spent all that time of putting somebody in place for them, and I would have created this fabulous rota that they could have used, for future references on down the line with their own private cleaners. So there was loads of things that we had to do at the start that we had to make improvements just to basically cover ourselves. Chris, I think whenever I first started the company, I was very, very open. A lot of people took advantage of my inexperience, and my naivety in terms of business. And then obviously over the years, we improved in that, but we always set out to be the best. That was always the main aim. And I think for us, maybe it was, I'm not sure when it was maybe 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, where we decided, something, we are going to make our company niche. Okay. There was a lot of companies that were starting up. A lot of cleaning companies were then coming to fruition. And I decided, something, like what we're really good at is we're really good at being very, very detailed. We're really good at high end cleaning. We're very, very meticulous. And I hate negative feedback. I would have priced the job. I would have brought in the team. We would have did the job. I would have checked the job. When I was happy with the job, I would have collected the money. I never took deposits and I never got paid up front. And I always said that we would put our reputation before profit. So we cleaned for a lot of contractors, building contractors. And sometimes what would happen is we would come in and price a house and they said, okay, if I give them a price and say, okay, it would take 3 to 4 people to clean the house. They'd maybe come back and say, no, our budget is we only want 2 people to clean the house. So we would go in and there'd be 2 people and they'd be really busting their socks off to try and get the house completed.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be completed to our standard. And I knew that they were being put under pressure. And then I knew as well, if somebody else had come in and had a look at the cleaning and thought, right, okay, Spring Clean's come in, Spring Clean's done this job, but look, they've missed X, Y, and Z. It didn't really sit well with me. And I think the icing on the cake was one time we had got a phone call. Apparently there was a person who'd moved into their home and the person who'd sold their house had told them they had got us in to clean and they hadn't.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my goodness, people are actually using our name now because we have such a good reputation for cleaning and letting on that we're cleaning the house when we didn't. And then I thought, how many times has that happened before? How many times have we went into a house and done a budget clean for somebody? So if we went in and somebody has said, okay, it's going to be 500, sorry, my office is really busy tonight. It's going to be £500 to clean your home. And they've said, listen, we only really want to spend £300. So we would have before in the past been in and did a £300 clean. But then I thought, how many times have we left then? And then someone has said, oh, we paid Spring Clean to come in and clean your house. And I thought, well, if we're putting our name to anything, it has to be the whole shebang. It has to be all or nothing. So we decided, no, we're going to be focusing on niche. We're going to do a full deep clean or else we're not going to do the job at all. If we're putting our name to anything, it will be done our way and it will be done right.
Do you know what? I completely agree with that. And just what a great answer as well about standards. I love that, really did. We're exactly the same. You know, people would tell us their budget and I'm happy to tell people no now. I'm happy to go, look, it's not, we don't want to, we don't like, we know what we're offering for hourly rate and like, well, look, we can do that, but it's going to be for the same rate. So you might as well take all the bells and whistles that go with it. But yeah, it's surprising to me. And do you know what? It's the ones that you reduce the price for, and it's the ones that you do the budget clean or the budget move. In our case, they're the ones that always want the most. They're the ones that are always demanding. Yes. They're the ones that always complain, and that, like, that's fine. But I can spot them a mile away now, and we don't really want to put our name to something as well that's not done to a high standard. When we price a job, you know, we're pricing everything from furniture assembly to disassembly, you know, to clothes being packed in wardrobe boxes provided as part of the service, amongst a lot of little other things. So if I'm quoting a 4-man team because there's some complex disassembly and reassembly where one man is literally just going to be dismantling and reassembling furniture, and they're wondering why the price is so high, and then they say, look, another company's quoted us for a 3-man team, but it doesn't include disassembly or it doesn't include reassembly on the other side. And I'm like, well, that's kind of where the 4th man is coming from. So you might be paying an extra couple £100 for the move, but you're going to get all your furniture reassembled in your house and then put into a place of your choice. And it's going to be done to a high standard. And it could save you potentially 3 or 4 nights after work putting together your furniture. So it's one of those things, and people don't want the service then. And some people say, look, we've already disassembled it. And I'll be like, that's okay. It's still the same rate per hour, but we just don't need as many people on the job, and people are okay with that. But I don't really like walking away from a job when it's not done properly. And my guys, luckily, are exactly the same.
But it's great to have, it is so good to have that high standard. I mean, I've seen us going into properties and I always give a price beforehand. So I remember one time we went in to price a job and I didn't realize they had, you know, the bubble stuff that you have between the windows.
Yeah.
you know, the window frames and the walls. Hadn't seen any of it whenever I priced this house, and it was an absolute mansion. And it literally took us a month. We were in that property for a month, and I think I may have made something like £100. It was very, very minimal. But I
Oh,
had a team of people in that house for a whole month. It was either £100 or £200. I remember it being absolutely crazy, although I was lucky that I made money and didn't lose it. And I thought afterwards, you know, you're so lucky that I am a woman, you know, that stands by my word. And when I give a price, I stand by it, because I felt that I had to take the hit, because I should have looked more closely. You know, the house had been built a very, very long time ago. It was something like 3 or 4 years later whenever they were actually moving in and finishing it off. So obviously there was probably workmanship that was done and it wasn't completed in full, but we had to spend so long trying to take this bubble off the frames. But at least I was able to walk away and know that I stood, you know, I stood by my price. You know, we did the job and did the job well, and nobody could come back and say, oh, you didn't do a good job, you know, you didn't do the job properly, or oh, don't get them and in, you know, they're not great. And to me, running the business, that was more important. My
yeah.
reputation was everything. And then what I've been doing, Chris, basically for the last maybe 6 months to a year, is I have been marketing our reputation.
Yeah.
I trademarked the slogan "Integrity is King" maybe two years ago, 2.5 years ago, and that's basically our marketing core. It's
Hmm.
integrity is king. You know, whenever you hire our services, it's not just that we come in and clean your home. I mean, you'll know this yourself, Chris, from being in the service industry. It's who you're putting in people's home. It's who you're bringing into somebody's office. You know, if we go into an office, it's not just about cleaning, it's about how you present yourself. It's about how you react whenever there's a complaint. It's about how you speak to somebody that you've never met before. It's how you carry yourself. If you hear something or see something, you know, how you behave, you know, with that information. So, you know, there's a lot more in the service industry than just what you're doing. It's anybody can go out and clean, but what we provide, and I think from listening to you and speaking to you, you guys are the same. It's the caliber of team. You know,
Hmm.
it's the people. You know, it's the people who they do the job well, but it's people buy from people, you know, and that's so important. So I have been trying to build up a really, really good team, which I have an amazing cleaning team. And I'm basically marketing, you know, that team, our team, I'm marketing them, and I'm marketing, you know, our integrity in business, you know, how ethical we are, how well we treat our employees, you know, you know, how much of a family we are. And we're trying to sell that in cleaning, which is something that really has never been sold before, because
Yeah.
before cleaning was always just bring somebody in, you know, they were unmotivated, untrained, you know, they probably didn't, you know, weren't happy in their work, and you know, it was frowned upon. Whereas we're trying our best to change the industry by just raising the standards, you know, really, really high. And I think I think fingers crossed that we have done that. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we certainly have put ourselves on the map, I think, in Northern Ireland.
Absolutely. Do you know, another great answer. Honestly, the thing about this is the thing that I find about, you know, the difference between sort of, I would like to call it like project work, you know, like cleaning and, you know, any sort of building and even removals as well. It's what I would consider project work. It's not like going into, you know, a meeting or like even a personal trainer, which is an hour and that's it. You know, you've got to price it correctly. You've got to get the service right. You've got to make sure that it's done to a high standard, and you've got to make sure it's done on time as well. So there's a lot of moving parts in the pricing a job, and I still to this day get, you know, when I the reason I have such high standards now is because we in the first couple of years we had so many complaints about this not being communicated and that not being communicated, and that used to get me really, really like anxious and stressed. So when I started improving things, started writing things down, creating our terms and conditions, creating our disclaimers, even to this day, when we get a complaint, which happens very few and far between, I'm really grateful to say. But now and again, of course, due to the nature of the business, you get a complaint, and I still get I still get hurt. But what I do is sometimes I leave.
Yes.
I leave it. If I get something one day, I might leave it to the next day to respond to it, because I know if I respond in that state, it may not be a good response. And you want to make sure that if somebody complains about something, that you've went through the proper processes, you've made sure you've communicated your service effectively. You need to make sure you've done the right thing. And now, this is my experience, and especially in the early days, when I actually backtracked through, from initial phone call right through the service being conducted, there was something that wasn't communicated to the customer, and you just have to hold your hands up and say, we fucked up there, and we'll resolve it. And then, but that's how you build standards, and then you implement it into your team, and then that's how you get better as well. And one of the things that I always say to the guys is, because like I've not lost money, but I've broke even on a lot of jobs, and there are times where it's cost me a lot of my time to fix something, which in my eyes is more valuable than money. But I go and do it anyway, and sometimes even the team are like, why did you do that? And I'm like, look, you don't understand. It's like we take people through a process from initial phone call right through to the day of the service, and if things aren't communicated clearly, then we don't have a leg to stand on, and we've made a promise to these people to get this done, and we're going to get it done. And that's just how I view things. Now, we've just got a really, really good process about how we do it. And communicating the strengths of your service is great, but you also have to communicate the downfalls. What if things go wrong and all that sort of stuff? So that's something I'm really clear about these days. But, I kind of always say to customers, we're preparing for the worst, but we're hoping for the best. So it's better that we prepare you for the worst, because there's so many moving parts on moving day that can go wrong, or even the day before. So at least if they're prepared for the worst and they get a great day, they're almost like, thank you very much for telling us, and we're glad everything went smoothly. And then that's when people sing our praises online.
But I do think it definitely depends, doesn't it? It depends from the top. If I am so fussy, and I'm so passionate about creating that, that reputation, that means more to me, as the exact same as yourself, as making money. I would rather lose money and walk away with my, reputation intact than, than have a dissatisfied customer. Absolutely. And I think you have to go through all those pitfalls. You have to go through the heartache. You have to go through the complaints, and you have to process that, to be better. You have to feel consistently to know, right, okay, I'll not do that again. I'll not do that again. Oh, I did this, I'll not do that again. And it does. I think I remember in the early days, we had so many complaints in the early days, because I remember it was so difficult to hire cleaning staff. I mean, when we first started the business, we were going straight into houses. We were going straight into offices. We were doing regular contracted work, and then we were doing deep cleans as well. And I was hiring people, and I was only starting off. So I didn't really know much about the vetting process, and I was just finding my feet. And I'd never been in business before. I had never worked as a cleaner before. And it was all, and I just had a baby. I just had a baby. So my emotions were probably, I had baby brain, so my emotions and everything were all over the place. And I just remember it was just constantly, you would have hired someone, you would have sent them in, and they weren't happy with this and they weren't happy with that. And I remember thinking, right, okay, how can I make this better? Because I can't cope. I can't cope with the negativity. I can't cope with people saying that I'm not good. If I'm doing something, I need to be the best at it, or I'm not doing it,
Yeah.
And I remember at one stage saying, right, okay, people are unhappy, right? Why are they unhappy? They're unhappy about the cleaning. But how do I know if this person did a good job? How do I know if the client is expecting too much? Or how do I know, if the person's coming in wasn't doing her job properly? And I said, right, okay, how can I make that better? Okay, this is what I can do. I can go in and check every property before we do cleaning. And that was something that we did because of all the complaints we were getting at the very, very early start of the business and the infancy of the business. So whenever I did that, then I had a lot more control, because I could go into a property and say, right, okay, we will start cleaning your home, or we'll start cleaning your office for X amount of hours a week. But first of all, you'll need to spend additional time so we can get the building up to standard. And then that became kind of one of our selling points, was that then because I went in timed every job, I became so good at it that was one of our specialities. So whenever it came to preparing a rota for a client, I would go in and specifically say, it'll take 20 minutes for your bathroom, it'll take 40 minutes for your three offices, it'll take 35 minutes for your kitchen, and I was able to get it spot on. So every time I was creating rotas for the clients, there were time specifications. So anybody who was coming in to do the cleaning, I knew if it took them 4 hours to do a 3 hour job, I knew we had a problem,
Mhm.
so it was very easy for me to create my system around all the problems that had
Yeah, yeah,
happened in the early days. Now, thankfully, we don't have that problems, but then the longer you're in business, you just get different problems, at different scales, and you just constantly are trying to improve and improve and improve. But the longer you're in business, I think, for me anyhow, the longer in business, the more thick-skinned you are. The more adaptable you become. The more you're able to change and improve, and it's just constantly improving. And I, even though I'm in business a very, very long time, I've never lost that passion. I've never lost that drive to always want to be the best. I think when you start with that, goal in mind, that you want to be the best, you'll never lose that. I always want to do better. I always want to improve the company. I always want to improve myself. I want to improve the service. And I constantly try to be better every day. And I
yeah.
think the longer I'm doing it, the better I'm getting. You know.
100%. Uh, and do you know what? It's progression. I think progression seriously equals happiness. If I feel like I've went through like a period of time where I haven't been progressing, whether it's personally or professionally, that's when I start to feel not, I wouldn't say down or depressed. I've never been a depressed, but I'm like, what, there's something that's not right here. There's something that's not fitting. And if you have that sort of constant, never ending, of what the Japanese call it, kanai, constant, never ending improvement, and you just want to keep getting better. Some days it's your business, some days it's yourself, but whatever it is, if you're
Yes.
progressing in one, you're always gonna feel like you're happy, because that's essentially what it is. If you feel like you're progressing in life, you're happy with your progression. And
Yeah.
certainly, I remember in the early days of Crisscross, before it was even removals and storage, I remember always thinking to myself, I was like, I want to have contracts, and I want to have, schemes in place, and I want to have a big business, and I want to have staff and all this sort of stuff. And I had this vision in my head, but I was just so caught up with so many shiny objects. I just couldn't I just couldn't progress at all. And then eventually I was trying to do like 4 or 5 different things in one go. I was trying to do like life coaching, and I was trying to do property. I was trying to do all these things, and one business hadn't even got its legs yet. And I was sitting thinking, I want to do all these things. And then eventually I just came crashing down. And then I was like, right, I need to just focus on Crisscross. I need to progress in that first, and then I can come back and do all these other things later. And when Crisscross started progressing, and then I started progressing, and then all of a sudden it really started to find my feet. I think that's so important as well. You have to have that drive from the start. I didn't get it. I had it at the start, and then I thought I got consumed with Facebook ads and all these other things, and didn't realize that there was a money making scheme right in front of me that I already started. And it wasn't
Yes.
until I actually put my focus into that, and I was like, I can actually create a really, really great business here, and create something really, really good for myself, and create jobs and create a great service. And that's what we ended up doing. So it was just about that progression, one step at a time. There has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a better way to do that, and implementing it, and then moving forward, because there's not a lot of help out there for service-based businesses at all. For like, there's not a lot of coaches or anything for cleaning businesses, although you might manage to find a great mentor that really helped you.
Yes.
um
Yes.
so that's why there's a lot of trial and error, and you have to really push through a lot of shit to get
Yes.
even the 3 to 5 team members, never mind 8 or 9.
Funny you say that, because do you know something? I don't know what it is. And then, well, I didn't know what it is, but then I kind of had a self-discovery bling moment, the light bulb goes off. But I put an ad in the Yellow Pages. I don't know how many years I was doing spring clean for V's pampering parties, right? So I got the business up and running. And I was sitting one night with a couple of glasses of wine with the mother-in-law and my best friend, and we were like, look, we go into people's houses and we could do their nails, and we could, do like facials, and we can, massage their feet and stuff. And we thought this was a brilliant idea. So after a few drinks and a couple of meetings later, we stuck this ad in the paper for V's pampering parties. It wasn't successful at all, thankfully, because it was kind of like you put the ad in the paper and you think it was in the Yellow Pages, and you think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because this is not going to go according to plan. But I also was a tannist. I did a tanning course, and I bought all the gear, and I had a tent. And a good friend of mine who was my neighbour for 12 years, him and I decided we were going to open up a nursing home together. And then I felt like I was doing all the work. So I said to him, listen, I'm just going to take this on board myself. And I got as far as a business plan. And my mum actually sat me down and she was like, what are you doing? She says, you've got your own business, you've got the kids, and now you're thinking you're going to be, and you're already time poor, and now you're going to be open, you get the tanning business, and now you're going to be opening up a nursing home. She says, I think you just need to focus on one thing. And I thought to myself, right, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And it wasn't until maybe quite a few years later that I sort of thought to myself, it's so much more easier to open up a new business than what it is to finish the one you have. Because whenever I started Spring Clean, it was all relatively new, and it was very, very daunting. And I then think I became comfortable. I got to a certain point where I was just comfortable in doing what I was doing, and I thought, right, okay, rather than getting to the next level, I'm just going to start a new business, because I've already started a business and I
because
know
I'm an
it works.
entrepreneur.
And then
Because I'm an entrepreneur.
that's it.
And
Yeah,
you're just
I'm going to have multiple businesses, but maybe that's why, because for a long time I started thinking, why am I in business so long? Why am I still here where I am? And I couldn't see the progression that I had made. I just seen the amount of years that I had spent doing the one business, and I seen how many staff I had, and I seen the bank balance, and I kind of thought, I should be making zillions here. I should be in the Bahamas sipping pina coladas. You know what I mean? Made my money, and here I am, slaving away, thinking, what have I done wrong? But I think procrastination definitely, and it wasn't even procrastination for the small things; it was the big things. Instead of just following through and going, right, I'm going to see this to the end. And I think that has been, it's been a huge it's been a huge boost for me. It's been a huge confidence booster for me, because I got over that level. I haven't finished yet, but I jumped over that level. So I think the first level for me was saying, right, okay, I'm going to just focus on one business. And then the next level was like, I'm going to finish the business. And whenever I'm still in the finishing business step, but that's like two levels. It's two levels, and I'm at that level, and I can, the end is in sight. The end is in sight, and it's exciting. And the more I say no, the more confidence I get. The more confidence I get in me, because I'm saying no, going, I know that I'm going to get other work, and I know that my time's going to be better managed doing better things, and I'm going to be able to say yes to the right clients, and I'm going to be able to drive the business forward. And it just does something. It really does. It does something to you as an entrepreneur. But I wish I had done it 10 years ago. But
and this is where lack of patience comes in, and like, I'm guilty. I've suffered from it myself. One business is going, and then all of a sudden it becomes overwhelming. You think there's an easier way to make money. There's an easier way to make money, and then you jump from thing to thing to thing. Like I say, because you're an entrepreneur, but you haven't actually done anything entrepreneurial. You've just started a few businesses, but you actually haven't taken them anywhere. And just because you've started 10 businesses doesn't make you an entrepreneur. Starting a great business, whether it's a great service-based business, a great product, and taking that to a new level, and like you say, get into that next level, which is finishing the business, which is the level that I want to get to now, which is going to take a long time. That might take me 5 to 10 years to get fully done. Might take me 1 year. I don't know, but at the moment, I went through the same thing, shiny objects and chasing them, and it's a really bad way to go, because you realize that even if you start selling things in your next business, you still have no systems or infrastructure in place that's going to remove you from it, and you're just going to have the same pressure, and then you're going to fail, and you're going to start again. So it takes a lot of resilience and a lot of patience, I think, to get to that next level, and I think that's why a lot of people just don't reach it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many people out there that have their own business, and there's so many people that start a business. But as you had said before to me in a conversation, there's not that many that finish off their business. You know, it's a whole different level.
Takes a real special skill set, and do you know what? I'm not even close to being there yet. I'm not even going to pretend like I am, but I'm definitely in the process of doing it. And that's why I look up to people like yourselves and other people who have done it, who have scaled a services business, because it's a really, really difficult thing to do.
But if you're doing it though, you are doing it. You no need to look up to me, because if you're putting the processes in place and you're starting to implement that now, you're already on that journey. You're already doing that, Chris. Do you know what I mean? You've already started. I'm just a little bit further. I'm just a little bit further ahead than what you are. Do you know what I mean? But it's actually taking that leap of faith to say, right, okay, I'm going to work on finishing my business. And once you take that leap of faith, you know, the wheels are in motion. You know, you're starting to plan, and you're starting to prepare, and you know, you're thinking of your exit strategy.
Yeah.
You know, I've been thinking about that now for a while, and I'm thankful that I'm nearly there. And I mean, it's exciting because once I get there, once I finish off the business, you know, I intend to expand the business, but it means then that I'm open to start something else. You know, I would love to, and I've actually just said this recently, you know, I would love to go into schools, and, you know, I'll start off with primary school, you know, to get my confidence up, but I would love to help promote integrity in business, because I remember starting and everybody used to say to me, oh, you're far too good to your team. That was the first thing people would say to me. You're far too good to your team. And even recently,
people said to me all the time.
People, you know, even recently people say to me, people say to me, you care too much. That's what your problem is. You care too much. And my man will say to me all the time, you'll never be a millionaire because you're far too honest. And I'd say to him, I'll be the first honest millionaire. And I remember, Chris, always thinking business was cutthroat. And you know something, a lot of business people are cutthroat, and there's been people who have tried to stamp me over, you know, and kick me in the teeth in business quite a few times. And I'm lucky that I do have a good backbone, you know, and I'm able to hold my own and stand my own ground. So while I'm really, really good to my team, I'm also not a pushover. And, you know, and even though I've been kicked in the teeth so many times, and I've had so many people, you know, trying to stomp me out, I've still stayed true to, you know, my core, which is integrity is king, and, you know, treat people really, really well. And I think that even though it's taken me longer on my journey, I'm hoping that I show other people, you know, that you can be really ethical in business. You can be so good to your team, and you can still be a massive success. You know, okay, yes, it's taken me longer, and, you know, I think there's other obstacles that's come in my way personally, but, you know, I would love to, you know, showcase that, you know, promote that, you know, encourage other people, you know, to be thinking, you know something, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to grow my business, and I'm going to be really, really good, you know, to my team, or I'm going to have a really, really reputable company. And that's, you know, and even the thought of me doing that excites me. So that's something like that I could maybe do to give a little bit back. I would do it for free. I wouldn't even want to charge for it, but I can't do that while, I can't do that or pursue things like really, on a big scale until I finish the company. So if I
Okay.
finish the business, it means I can, go into other areas. But I think even me saying that I'm going to do something like that has given me a huge confidence boost.
Yeah, and
Thinking,
even
oh
the fact
goodness,
that
am I
even the
ready?
fact that
Maybe
you
I must be ready.
yeah, and even the fact that you're so open about this online as well, which is another thing I love. I try
Too
not to
open.
yeah,
Too
too
open.
open, but it's so good because now
Yes.
you're accountable to the whole of LinkedIn.
Oh,
I've got to get
absolutely.
this done. I'm
Yes.
so quiet about what I do behind the scenes in Crisscross because I don't even want to start really giving proper business advice or try, I feel like I'm a good operator. I feel like I'm a great. In
Yes.
fact, I know I'm a great operator. But I want
Yes.
to have the result first and then go right. This is how I done it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's difficult for me to document a lot of what I'm doing behind the scenes because we've got so much in data protection and a lot of my time is spent talking to people on the phone, names, addresses, going to people's houses. There's so much of that I just can't film
Yes.
which is not great if you're trying to document your journey and
Yes.
what you're doing. And I know for a fact that what I'm doing behind the scenes is we're trying loads of different marketing things, and we're creating different types of content, and we're just figuring out what works. And I just know for a fact that, and then I'll be able to say, do you know what, I was able to do it. But I try not to give too much advice at the moment because people do
Yes.
reach out and say like, what would you do here and what would you do there? Because I just don't talk a lot about what I do in a day-to-day context. But I want to do more podcasts. That's one of my big goals. Do a lot more podcasts, speak to a lot more people who are much smarter than me and a lot further along than me, because it's just great to see that if one person can do it, then I can do it. And the more you talk to people like that, the more confidence it gives you as well. And when you start speaking your goals aloud and you start thinking about what you want to do, like someone asked me the other day, where do you want to be in the next year? I was like, I don't want to deal with customers at all. I don't want to talk to
Yes.
customers. And they were like, why do you not want to talk to your customers? And I was like, it's not that I love my customers and the reason I started the business, but I don't want to deal with clients. I want somebody who's really good at it and probably a lot better than
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Um, and that's one of my big goals over the next year. So speak that one aloud, put this one on LinkedIn
Brilliant.
tomorrow. But do you know what? I
Yes.
completely lost my train of thought there. I don't even know how I was going to close it.
We were talking about your grad. I was enjoying listening to that.
Elizabeth
We were
Dobbin about
talking
your
about,
random.
no, not at all, not at all. We were talking about accountability,
Accountability, yeah.
and this is the thing. I know by being on LinkedIn, it's not just for me accountability. I have grown so much. Do you know that? In terms of how I communicate with people, in terms of how I react to situations. I mean, I'm quite full on. My personality is, Zoom. I'm straight in there. I went on a business mentor retreat for the weekend, and
The weekend
one
just
guy
passed.
said, "You're like." Oh, no, no, no. It was like 2 years ago. Do you remember Gavin Wall? I went on the business retreat with Gavin Wall, and this guy said I was like, um uh what do you call it? What do you call it? I can't even think of it now. I can't even think of the name. It was like it's like this character, and he just zooms into stuff. I can see him. He's brown. He's brown. It's not a
Tasmanian
tsunami.
devil.
It's something like that.
The Tasmanian.
Tasmanian devil. And you're thinking Tasmanian devil. You're just so it means by being in the public arena so often. I'm trying to learn to control myself, to control my emotions, to control how I react to certain things. And being on LinkedIn has helped me massively. It definitely has. Obviously, there's things I'm doing in the background as well, meditating and just self-development and trying. The more I work on me, the better it is in the business.
You've hit the nail on the head there. And actually, that's what I was going to start talking about. Just as you said, emotional self-control there. Something I've really been working on and something I've got really good at. And sometimes, like I say earlier on, if you have a problem that you need to deal with and you feel like you're in a very reactive state, then take a day, take 2 days if you need to, but do not react when you're in an angry emotional state, especially with a customer or with a staff member. And I've only had to learn that the hard way. And luckily enough, the people that I dealt with, I eventually went away for a couple of days and actually went, you know what, I was a real dick there and I needed to go back and apologize. And then, you know what, it was resolved like that.
Yeah.
So easy. And so I actually wanted to lead into and sort of finish off with lifestyle choices, because you're very open about the fact that you don't drink anymore. So tell us a bit about how that came about and why you don't drink anymore and why you've decided to make that part of your lifestyle.
Okay, well, I love the fact that you had said about 5 minutes ago how you like being around other people who are further on than you, because you think to yourself, I could do that too. So I had met Gavin Wall. He then became my business mentor, and before he was my mentor. Yeah, yes. Before he became my mentor, I was actually engaging with him on LinkedIn, and him and I were chatting, and I had taken my work team out on a work do. We won a huge contract, and I brought in a policy saying I win, we all win. So if I was tipping over any staff, we were all going to be celebrating, and it was going to be a nice way to welcome in our new recruits. So we all went to Derry for an overnight stay, and we were on the Razzmatazz from about 4 o'clock that day. And I think at about 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning, me and my other half had a bit of a domestic in front of the staff. I was going to kill him. And I woke up the next day and I was hungover, and I was messaging Gavin, and he had told me he didn't drink, because I'd said, look, sorry, I haven't been in contact with you. We had a work day last night, I'm a bit hungover. And he texted me to say he has been off the drink for like 10 years. And I thought, oh my goodness, who doesn't drink? This is Northern Ireland. Everybody drinks. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, I could do that. And I did. And I went off drink for 6 weeks. And I drank over Christmas. It was in the Christmas period, and I drank over Christmas. And I actually felt really, really defeated whenever I poured my first drink, down my throat, because I thought, I was doing so well and I felt so good, and I thought, this is not for me. So it was a New Year's Eve. I decided, something, I'm going to give up the drink again. And it wasn't even Chris. I wouldn't have been a big drinker. My children have never seen me drunk. I've never been drunk in front of my children. I would have drank a glass of wine, but I would have drank often. I would have drank small, but I would have drank often.
Almost like, what's the point? It's almost like, what's the point in even
drinking?
That's
it. I mean, what's the point in even drinking? Well, do you know something? I went off drink on New Year's Day, and that was nearly two and a half years ago. And honest to goodness, I have never looked back, and I don't think I would ever go back on the drink again, because I could remember, Chris, I would have been sitting in the office, maybe working all day, working in the evening, and thought, I'll just have a wee glass of wine. And I'd be sitting at my desk with a wee glass of wine, and I'm maybe send this email to a client, and I'm maybe saying a few things that I maybe shouldn't be saying. And I mean, I can remember clients even saying, Vicky, what was that email about? And I had to apologize and say, listen, sorry, I had a wee glass of wine last night. So it clouds your judgment. It makes you react to situations, and sometimes you view things in a negative way. Sometimes you see the worst in a situation, and sometimes you're, even if you've had a couple of glasses of wine, the next day you're maybe groggy. You don't have the same tolerance levels. That's what I found massive. Even being a parent, even being a mom, I have a lot more tolerance for my children. I'm the one way. Yes, okay, fair enough. I'm a bit of a Tasmanian devil. But I'm the same Tasmanian devil. Whereas with the drink, you were up and down, and I honestly feel that it it has given me a huge boost. I could not see me taking the business to this stage or being at this stage where I'm at if I had been drinking. You know,
Yeah.
I think it is a total game changer. I think if you're serious about your business, if you're serious about your business and you want to take it all the way, you seriously need to think about your lifestyle. You need to look
Absolutely.
at your lifestyle, because you know that's like 15 years. So that was me. 15 years I drank in business for 15 years, and then the last nearly 2.5 years, the business has just it's just gone to a different place.
Yeah, and that's because you're in a great place. You know, I've kind of went through something similar with drinking. Now I haven't quit drinking at all, but I don't really drink much anyway. I'll go for a celebration, you know, the odd night out with the staff, like maybe once a year, you know, the odd night here with the family. I don't
Yes.
drink recreationally, so I would never just come in and go, I fancy a beer. I would always have a cup of tea or a cup of chamomile tea these days, because tea makes you not sleep at night. But I mean, if I was going for the session. I was going for the rip. And you know, but that led to other things. That led to all night parties. It led to drugs. It led to all sorts. And I found myself doing the same thing for the first few years of business, up and down, up and down. If I went out on a session, I didn't want to speak to clients, customers, staff. I didn't want to do anything for at least 4 days. I wouldn't want to post on social media. I didn't want to speak to. I just wasn't myself. So getting rid of that, you know, especially the drugs aspect, was a major thing. Now I can actually go out and have a few drinks. I can actually go out and get myself quite. Like, it was my birthday last Saturday. I ended up at my brother's. Ended up quite tipsy, quite drunk.
Yeah.
Even though I got home late, I woke up the next day with a bit of a hangover. But I got up and I had a couple of glasses of water, readjusted, not do what I normally do on a day-to-day basis, and then by like 1 o'clock I was okay again. But then I was tired later on that night. But the next day I got up after that, I was fine. I was good to go again. So I think you have to really have a look at what role does alcohol play in your life? Are you drinking it as a stress management technique? So if you're thinking, I've had a stressful day, I want to have a glass of wine. If your mind and body are associating alcohol with stress relief, then once that gets locked in your subconscious mind, that becomes very difficult to break. I'm quite lucky in the fact that when I have a drink, it's more of a celebration. Like, it was my birthday, it was my girlfriend's birthday on Monday. She even woke up the day after her birthday, which was yesterday, when we went to the Galgorm. She was like, I've completed hangovers. If I just have a few drinks, I'm fine. And we went to the Galgorm yesterday, having after a few drinks the night before. We were still buzzing. So
Lovely.
I just think it's really important to accept what the negative things in your life, what role do they actually play? And if I've noticed that I do something because of stress or because of a negative mindset or because of a negative emotion, then you have to really assess why that's in your life and assess whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And that's how I changed my relationship with alcohol, because I used to go out, alcohol, coke, everything at the weekends. And that was to finish off a stressful week. It wasn't to celebrate a good week. It was, I've had such a week, 5 o'clock, boom, let's go. And it was just, once I changed that relationship, it was so much easier for me to quit those bad things. And I've really considered going off drinking myself. I really have. But do you know what? I feel like I've got it under such control. It doesn't negatively impact me anymore. It probably does in some sort of way, but I still, if I have a drink, 1 or 2 drinks on a Saturday night, then I'll get up on a Sunday, I'll still go to the gym, I'll still get all my shit done, and I'll be ready to go on Monday morning. Whereas before, if I went out on a Saturday night, I wasn't myself till at least Wednesday. And I think that's the difference, just finding out what the relationship is with it, and being able to adjust or quit based on that.
See, I think for me, I'm afraid in case I take one drink and then I'm back. You know, honest to goodness, I think my personality is all or nothing. You know, even whenever I give up the drink, my best friend was going to fall out with me, and she was like, why can't you be normal like everybody else? You're having a glass of wine every day. Why can't you just have a glass of wine at the weekend like everybody else?
Yeah.
But I think that that's my personality. I'm all or nothing. And I am afraid in case I slip back into my old ways. And don't get me wrong, like one glass of wine probably doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're drinking
Could be a
four or five
trigger.
nights a week, one glass of wine, it does. It actually does have an impact. And whenever I went out on the razzmatazz, I mean, I would have drank a bottle of champagne when I was getting ready. Not that you don't go out that often when you're 3 kids, but when you do go out, the crack yourself, Chris, you hit it a buck. So I would have drank a bottle of champagne
That's
before I
celebration
went
of
out.
not having kids. Let's go hard.
That is. Whereas now, I mean, now what I do, like I found this is what I did. Did I ever tell you this story how I give up alcohol? How I give
No.
up alcohol was I used to buy myself bottles of Slur and put them in the freezer. And then whenever my mom was having a drink, I would get the Slur out, and whatever glass he had, I had to have a bigger glass. I don't know what that was, but if he had a glass of gin this size, my glass of gin was that size. So I started drinking Slur, and it kind of felt like, just you were drinking, you had that drinking motion. And then what I did was I played rave music and I danced for about a month. So I would have come home from work and my kids and partner were looking at me like I wasn't half wise. I was dancing about my kitchen to rave music because I obviously needed something to just that get that emotion out. I would have come home and had a glass of wine and that would have completely de-stressed me. Whereas I was coming home going, Slur, it feels good, but it's just not doing it for me. So the dance music actually really, really helped. And that's what got me over alcohol. I should bottle that and sell it. Do you know that? Bottle that and sell it.
Put
Slur and dance music. Honest to goodness. The road to pioneership.
Look, but whatever works for you. Some people it's 12 steps, other people it's rave music. Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other, like, I know obviously you've quit drinking, but do you have any other like mindset rituals, morning rituals, or things that you do on a day-to-day basis to keep yourself performing at your best level?
Okay, so I try to plan my day the night before, and I be very, very specific and very detailed. So I aim to get up at 6 in the morning, and I'll set aside 10 minutes for yoga. I'll set aside 10 minutes for meditation. I'll set aside 10 minutes for possibly reading.
Mhm.
Doesn't always go according to plan, but at least if you have some sort of plan in motion, the chances are you will follow through. And then I plan getting the girls up, get girls ready for school, bringing them to do their school run. And then when I come back, I structure my day, Chris. And that's something that I did whenever I worked in an office. Was because whenever I worked in an office before, when I was working for other people, there were so many thrown at me. I had to prioritize it. So I thought it was I still believe it's a very, very good way to prioritize your day. I'd
Mhm.
always leave like 10-minute gaps in between, for phone calls and different things. And even though I don't stick to it sometimes regimentally, I mean, I got up this morning and I couldn't get out of bed. I hit snooze on my phone, maybe about 8 times. But I know when I get up tomorrow, because I missed my morning slot and I didn't do what I planned to do, I know when I get up tomorrow, I will be annoyed at myself today. So my structure, I will follow through. So,
Mhm.
so I do try to plan the day, what I'm doing. Is there any other rituals? I try to listen to my body. I think that's a huge thing for me. If I'm sitting in the office, sometimes my eyes will get sore, from looking at the screen, or sometimes I'm not in the zone. And if I'm not in the zone, Chris, I just go and do something. I'll go for a cycle. I'll go and visit my mom. I'll go down and visit my aunt. Um, but I just remove myself from the office because I just think this is a waste of time. I'm going to
Yeah.
spend all my day sitting in the office. I'm not going to get anything done. I'm not in the zone. I'm not feeling it. And I just say, no, this is not working for me. But then what happens is, see, when I'm in the zone, right? There's, do you know that magical day you get where you just are firing in all cylinders? See, when I'm in the
Today, I
zone,
had it
I just
today.
work right through to be like,
I
I
was
worked 11,
closing
12 o'clock at
sales.
night because
Yeah, go ahead.
see, it's days when I'm in the zone, I just keep going. You know, I know there's sometimes I will get more work done in one day than I would get done in an entire week
Yeah.
when I'm in that mindset. So I try to listen to my body. I remember when I first started the business, and I look back and I think, oh my goodness, my mother would have helped me with my son whenever he was born. And in the early days, I would have been in my office 5 days a week, and I would have got very, very little work done because I would have spent it procrastinating, looking at different things. And now as you get older, because of the kids you've had, you know, whenever I'm in the office, it has to be productive, you know. So I don't know whether that's because I'm planning the day or whether that's you just learn over the years, you know, you learn over the years. It's not the amount of time that you have, it's what you do whenever
Yeah.
you have it.
Absolutely. And I had one of those days today, straight back from the Galgorm. I knew I had work to do, and do you know what? The fact that I had to do it gave me the momentum to just start. And then once I made those first few phone
Yes.
calls, it was like, right, boom, let's do payroll next. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do that. The next thing was 5 o'clock, and I was folding blankets downstairs, and I don't know how to
Brilliant.
do that. So
Yeah.
it's just one. Yeah, I completely agree. I listen to myself. And I know myself better than anybody, and I know that if I don't do certain things, it doesn't have to be a specific morning routine. But if I either, you know, I like to get up, I like to get the day started with some high priority work, just something that's going to push me or the business forward. Anything, it could be something stupid. As long as I do that one thing every single day, then I'll move into, you know, don't have to dispatch the team anymore. I've just passed that off. So then I would move into either exercising or walking the dog. One of those two things, if I don't do one of those two things in the morning, or both, if I have time, then it just gets me in a bad place. And if I do all those things in the morning, then that can only be like 2 to 3 hours max. Then I'm ready to go down and attack the day. I know whatever the day throws at me, then I'm ready for it because I've got the important things done.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of people. I remember, you know, being in a business networking group, and a lot of people would have always said that sometimes, you know, if you're doing really well in business, that your personal life is not great, or if you're doing really, really good on your personal life, your business is not great. And whenever I look back over the years, it probably has been a little bit like that. You know, the scales kind of have been up and down. Whereas I think now, whenever I'm listening to my body, and I think now I'm a wee bit older and a wee bit wiser, a wee bit longer in business, that I realize that, you know, I have to put the effort, the way I structure my business and the way I run my company, I have to make sure that I'm putting as much time into my family life. You know, I have to spend time with my girls, you know, and my son. I have to be present. I have to, you know, even I know,
And there has to be
for
progression in
example, if
those
I've maybe had
relationships.
2 days. Absolutely. I know, like if I'm sitting here 2 days and I haven't seen my mum, I'll have to go up and spend a couple of hours with my mum, you know, because I know that even though it's taking me away from my work, I know that I'll feel, you know, I'll not feel guilty. I'll feel as if, you know, I've contributed, you know, to the family. And then whenever I come back in to do work, I feel better in myself. And, you know, it's about feeling whole. It's about getting that wholesome. If your family life is going well, and you know everything at home it is good, then it's going to impact your business. Whereas if you're, you know, I would have been whenever I started working, I was a workaholic. I mean, I was in my office and 24/7 on the phone constantly, an absolute workaholic, you know. And my home life wasn't great, you know. And something has to give, you know. Whereas I was spending a lot of my time in business but not being productive, you know, not being, and because I wasn't productive, when you're not productive, then you have to spend more time. Whereas now I try to put as much time into my home life, as much time into my business, and as much time into me, you know, and whenever you're separating your time into those three areas and realizing that everyone is as important. Like I only started paying myself last year, for the first time. I mean, I should have been paying myself.
Yeah, you
I should have been the first person to be paying myself.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, 16 years in business, and I never even paid myself. I never took a wage. I just would have taken whatever surplus money was there. But it's important that you take time for yourself, as well as the business and as well as the family. And if you
absolutely.
focus, sort of trying to split in those three areas, yes, you'll have bad days in business. Yes, sometimes I'll fall a mum and she'll do my bapping,
Mhm.
but then, you take the rough with the smooth, and in a whole, if you put your energy into those three areas, then I think that your business will do really well. Listen to me giving out entrepreneur advice, but
Guru,
that's
you're a
what's
guru
worked
now.
for me.
You're a guru.
Guru, a
LinkedIn
self-proclaimed
guru.
guru. After this podcast, that's it. I'm changing my LinkedIn profile. Guru. I'm
Chris
now
McGee is
guru.
taking you
Give
to
it
the stratosphere. See if you get a 400 followers off the back of this
That's
podcast.
it.
I'm taking credit for the building of
Brilliant.
your reputation.
Love
No,
it.
no, look, like I really, really love that answer. That was unbelievable and a great way to finish off a podcast. So finally, just to wrap up, where can people find you? Where can we find out about Victoria McMahon and your business Spring Clean NI?
Lovely. Well, we are in the middle of a rebrand. So we're changing our name from Spring Clean NI Limited to McMahon Commercial Cleaning Limited.
Right. Yeah.
But you will find us, we have a website, and you will find me on LinkedIn under Victoria McMahon. So please hook up with me, add me, get connected, and follow me, because
Get ready for the madness, whoever does decide to follow me.
Embrace it.
No, look,
Embrace it.
like that was an amazing conversation, like as we always do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me on. Privilege. This is my first ever podcast. I'm absolutely delighted. I'm delighted. So chuck to bits. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.